to test the audio, say, "I want to soar like a pigeon."
What? What did you just say?
Like a pigeon. Like Jared Leto in this fucking movie.
Oh my god.
I want to spread my wings.
Papa.
Papa.
If you don't say Papa, how will we know you are Italian?
I speak like an Italian who doesn't speak English.
Look, this movie asks us to do the most impossible thing, which is...
Enjoy it?
What you goddamn do. It's hard to emotionally engage with Jared Leto as a person,
giving the worst performance of his career
as a human.
Like hands down. Yeah,
dude, my guy. Look, he loves to play a dude doing another dude, being another dude. Like, yes.
Play a dude doing another dude.
He's the worst dude to play another dude.
Yeah,
but time and again, Hollywood, you get this guy to be another guy. Why?
I remember we saw this movie in theaters long ago, 2021, which is crazy. I remember enjoying it at the time. I did not enjoy rewatching it because not that it's changed in quality in my estimation. It's just not really that good of a film, honestly. It was fun in theaters at the time. Also, we were starved for films, it's the pandemic. But I do remember Ridley Scott, those like pre-show things at Cineplex that show kind of like, this is the movie coming up, and they have little interviews with people.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott was one of them. And I remember there's like a little clip, because they're all like cut up to death just for sound bites. And one of them was like Ridley Scott being like, yeah, like Jared Leto, he really enjoyed working with him and blah, 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 which is like all the power to him. But he was like, it's really him underneath all that makeup and stuff. And I was always like, unfortunately, it is.
Yes. Yes,
completely.
God. Yep.
But I have to say, in this rewatch, I hated his performance almost completely. But I do think there's that one scene when he confronts Patrizia and Maurizio outside the church.
Yes.
He's actually really good.
Yes.
But for the most part, he's just it's such a foolish character. And,
right.
Yeah. Do you want to hear something fucking crazy too?
What?
Lady Gaga and Jared Leto did not leave character during the entire filming of this film.
It's already not maddening enough.
That sounds like the most intolerable thing you could imagine.
God. No.
Oh, welcome to the low ceiling. I'm John.
And I'm Preachy.
If you haven't guessed by now, we're talking about the House of Gucci.
House of Gooch. Look, I was dreading this rewatch because I felt pretty imprisoned the first time we saw it.
Oh, really? You didn't have fun? I kind of had fun.
The first time.
Yeah.
Because it was relentless.
We were at the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every time Leto came on, I was like, oh, he keeps coming back.
Yeah.
I thought
he's a major part of this story. Yeah.
And look, the opening scene with him on the floor crying and saying, Papa, is beautiful, fantastic.
Which one?
When they first introduce him,
he's like when they're all playing the football match,
yeah.
or the whatever the fuck that is,
the fuck polo, whatever, and he's like just wailing like a baby on the ground. There's an aerial shot of him.
That scene is so funny because like it's just like 17 dudes dressed for lunch, but just wrestling on the ground, and when you watch it, it does feel like Ridley was like, how does this sport work? I don't care, just do something, and they just all start just like roughhousing like 10-year-old boys. It's so funny. Yeah.
Make sure you beat the shit out of Jared Leto. Yeah. The audience will love that. So that was the first watch where I was like, oh man, this is never ending. And now I've endured 2 life sentences, Your Honor.
Yeah.
This movie is long. Even on the second rewatch.
It's 2 hours and 40 minutes. And
my God. Got no business having this Miss Gucci
it's like it's definitely like less fun to rewatch than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
But it's like it has like qualities that I like. Like Ridley Scott is such a fucking good director, which is why we're doing Scottfest. It's back finally at long last. We'll do a Tony Scott film next week. A Tony Scott film that's way better than this. But like Ridley Scott is like it's such a well-made film.
Yeah.
In so many ways. And yet it's kind of painful. Like it's kind of not a very good movie at all.
It's a well-made multiple films.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, every character is in a different movie.
That's something I wrote down was like, this movie is 2 movies and neither of them are very good.
Yeah.
One of them is about like the Gucci, the brand.
Yeah.
And the other one is about Patrizia and Maurizio's relationship.
Yeah.
And the murder. And neither of them are very good.
No.
You know.
No.
And unfortunately, okay, maybe I'm ignorant because I'm not like a fashion person. The story of Gucci, the brand, has very little meaning in regards to the murder of Maurizio Gucci.
Yes.
The brand itself is almost irrelevant because Patrizia is just like a social climber.
Yeah.
So it just happens to be Gucci that they're talking about. So I don't know. Like I just find that it not very interesting or compelling. And actually overall, sorry to go on, but something I wrote down was that like overall, my big thing about this story is that in real life, it's not that interesting.
No.
It's not a very compelling story at all.
No.
And I don't know why anyone would write I know it was based on a nonfiction book, but like I'm like, yeah, okay. Like there's nothing actually like, wow, that's so crazy about it. It's just like Maurizio Gucci just happened to be famous, but really it's just a woman hires an assassin to kill her husband. It feels so pedestrian if it wasn't about a massive international brand. Yeah.
That's because, well, obviously Shakespeare wrote it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shakespeare wrote House of Gucci, and he was like, I love the murder. I love to commit crime and have $1 billion brand. And
you sound a lot like Lady Gaga, who actually sounds like a Russian oligarch in this movie.
Gaga does her best Russian accent as an Italian
Lady
woman.
Gaga sounds like the mom from Honora, who like comes and like is like a total firebrand.
Yes.
And yeah, and
I'm not a particularly ethical person.
Like, yes, I am Russian. I mean, excuse me, I'm from Milan. I love the Gucci clothes.
Yeah.
But yes, I grew up in northern Italy.
My favorite food is definitely pasta.
I am a hot-blooded Tuscan.
Excellent.
This is my normal natural accent. I come from Italy.
Lady Gaga, as an Italian/Russian mob wife in this, gets scarier and scarier, and thank God Italians are not real. Otherwise, this would be a documentary.
Thank God Italians are the most chill, docile people on the planet. Because then I wouldn't, or else, the caricature comes to life. And
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but mostly Italians are just like, I just like to relax.
I feel like Italians are the closest types of people I've ever come to like being similar to Indians.
Interesting. Expound.
Rage. Excellent food.
Yeah.
Little regard for silence. Just generally.
Yeah.
And we love spending money on Gucci, baby.
Yeah.
We fucking love that shit.
You guys
we
like
love
loafers?
Loud colors. Yeah. We're about that life.
Impractical footwear.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like a pair of loafers that you're just like, why would you wear this here? Why would you do that? Yeah.
Cause whatever, boat shoes with no socks on? Cause we're not. It's fashion. Oh God.
Yeah, well similar. I can see the similarities. All about family, religion, all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
I do look, of all the characters in this film, who all appear to be in like a separate movie, like Adam Driver, who's doing his serious cinema.
Adam Driver's entire persona in this film is to be like no, I am not that hot. And it's like,
no.
yes, you are. Just like you're like really like kind of the most beautiful you have ever been. And he's like, oh,
yeah, long hair.
But I'm just relaxed, and I just
I just accountant.
Oh, I can't believe this lady likes me. Yeah, like it's so fucking, it's so dumb. Yeah.
I don't know what that meme is, but there's a little Italian boy. He's sitting on his couch, and the mom is like, "Oh, baby, you're so delicious," and the kid is like, "No, I just a boy. I just a boy." Yeah. And I could not get it out of my brain. Every time I saw Adam Driver, it's just him going, "Mom, no, I just a boy."
Yeah, that is him in this. And then there's Irons, who looks like someone from Tales of the Crypt. And
Jeremy Irons.
But Jeremy Irons has the self-respect to at least like not try the Italian accent.
Dude,
he's just like, I will not do it. Yeah.
Look, is that real life? His dad had an English accent or what? Who knows? Maurizio's dad, like in
who knows? Yeah, but
like president of Gucci.
Almost certainly, he was the most Italian man of all time. But
that was why he's like, how come? What are you doing here, Maurizio? It's like, what is happening?
This is not how Tuscans act and behave. I would know. I'm a Tuscan man.
Yeah. May I? Good Lord. What?
And then Pacino.
Yo. He's my favorite part of this.
Yes, yeah.
No bullshit.
Yeah.
He is so somehow the least Pacino he's ever been.
Except when he gets out of prison and then Jared Leto tells him he like sold his thing, and then he just like screams in his face. Yeah.
That was so good. That was so good.
No.
The Italian screaming.
Yeah.
In his Italian
and
accent.
When he signs the document and he's like just scribbles all over it. Yeah.
Congratulations.
See, this movie has a lot of charms. They're just not.
That's a word for it.
Just not that interesting. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, I think they do try to like pack in a lot of vigor in this between Lady Gaga and Adam Driver's character.
Yeah.
Particularly found it emotionally charging when Lady Gaga got her Gucci 8 on the table.
At work? Well,
at work, which is a fucking very well done scene. I don't know.
Yeah.
It felt like a different movie altogether, and I thought it'll go somewhere different from there.
One of the disappointments I have, even though those scenes I think are good, is that like it takes so long to really get going, and like it sets up Patrizio and Maurizio or whatever. Like I wonder if there's a better version of this film where you don't have to start from zero, like where you don't have to be like, this woman doesn't know him and this man doesn't know her. How do they meet and how do they like? Because I found until like the plot is like doesn't really matter until Jeremy Irons like cuts him out of the will. But even still, like you don't even need a lot of that shit. Like I just didn't find it very interesting.
No,
even though it's nice and stuff, but I was like, oh God, like let's fucking get going. But at the same time, like I said, not enough even happens in the film to be like, drag you to the end where you're just, all the film is telling you is like, this guy got shot.
Exactly.
And the why of it is kind of like, okay, like I don't care.
But that's because it's, and it's shocking that it's a Ridley Scott joint because he is so much more creative and like weaving the.
Never made a bad movie either. Never made a questionable film.
Not one time. What a guy. And he told this in the most linear way possible. It starts here, this is the beginning, and then this is the middle where they've grown to hate each other, and in the end, they hate each other fully.
It's like, the detail is like too fleshed out in a lot of places. Yeah.
If it started in reverse, which a lot of films try to do, it's not uncommon. It opens with the guy getting shot.
Well, this one does too, though, right? Oh. It opens with him riding his bike, and then the person like says his name. You don't see him getting shot.
Oh, I see.
But it at least opens with the being like, hey, you should at least know a little bit about this. You should know this guy was murdered by his wife. And then it's kind of like the promise of the film is like, here's the crazy story about how it happened. But the story is just not that crazy. It's really not. Like, it reminds me a lot of, and I guess this shouldn't be surprising, of like another Ridley Scott film, All the Money in the World. But that story is actually interesting, and it has like more thematic weight to it than this film. Like, have you seen All the Money in the World? No. It's another movie that's largely set in Italy. And actually, I always think whenever I've seen this movie, the place where they meet the two hitmen in this film, I'm like, I swear he filmed an exact scene in that place in All the Money in the World. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, damn.
But All the Money in the World is about it's the movie that Kevin Spacey was in and then got cut out of completely and replaced by Christopher Plummer.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's actually quite good. I really like it, and it's about these people who kidnapped John Paul Getty, his son, and how he wouldn't pay ransom to them to get him back, or his son or his nephew or some shit.
Oh.
But they kidnap the kid in Rome, and then they kind of hold him in the countryside, and they demand ransom.
Oh, right.
And then Mark Wahlberg is like the liaison and stuff, and there's all this kind of Italian content, but. That story, I think, is actually interesting. It has it's got thematic relevance about wealth, and it's like trying to examine this person's greed versus their family and things like that.
Right.
And it's it's not an incredible movie, but it's a good movie. And it's much better than this.
I didn't know it was a Ridley joint.
Yeah, it is. It's a little. It's weird. It's kind of an undersung Ridley joint because I'm pretty sure it was nominated for Best Picture.
It was definitely critics were talking about it. It was
Plummer got nominated for Best Supporting Actor because he had to replace Kevin Spacey in 5 days. So totally. And Michelle Williams might have been nominated, but it was a good movie. But one of the lesser kind of even the premise of it is less exciting than a lot of Ridley movies. You'd be like, why does Ridley Scott even care? But then you watch it and you're like, oh, this is a perfectly good film. I watched it on a plane. I was like, this is very good. This is a solid 7 out of 10.
Oh, shit, I gotta make a note. I want to watch this.
It's well worth watching. It's better. I think it's probably better than House of Gucci and about as good as The Last Duel.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
it's an excellent movie.
Last Duel slaps.
But because of the Italian content, they kind of remind me of each other. Except I just feel like All the Money in the World has more to say about the same kind of thing that this movie is trying to say. And this movie is just so much more Ridley's oh, fuck all the thematic shit. Just just have fun. Just whatever.
Jeremy Irons can I just be myself in this?
Yeah. And the funny thing, I was reading that Ridley, because they were in character the whole time, Gaga, and he would not really give them a lot of notes and stuff.
Oh my God.
That might
No, the only note that do you think Jared Leto watched that Tim Robinson focus group sketch with the guy? He loves his mother-in-law, Paul.
He loves his mother-in-law.
He watched it and Jared Leto's like, okay, lock it in.
Oh, that's how Italians are.
I got
That's
this.
literally how all Italians act and behave.
One note, baby.
It's pretty much, yeah.
Good God. Fucking Jared Leto,
If Jared Leto was a huge fan of Tim Robinson, I would be really upset because then I would have to agree with him about something, and I don't think that's a tenable way of living. But, yeah.
If he was a more reasonable person. No. I am simply thinking about Al Pacino's entrance. Look, every time someone reminds me of this movie, my first thought is obviously just the impossible Leto, and then Al Pacino. He comes into this film and they introduce him as looking at this tabloid photo of Adam Driver and Lady Gaga.
Yeah,
and then saying the most Italian thing. What's all this? What
is that Pacino or is that
it's Al Pacino.
Yeah.
It's Al Pacino. He looks at the thing and he's like, what is these?
Che cosa? What is all this then?
Okay, what's all this then? Which is the most... Look, I have a top 3 other things that Al Pacino's character could have said in his thick Italian accent.
As an Italian... An avid Italian learner, you can speak on this.
Me, yes.
You can, how you say parlo on this, whatever. Go on.
This is me, Al Pacino, holding a tabloid photo of his nephew and his future wife and going.
Picture it in your mind.
Yeah. Well, slap my bottom and call me Nigel. What is this?
That is something I would believe Jared Leto would say in that. Yeah.
Him,
my father is a no spring chicken.
What is this? Jared Leto and Al Pacino looking at this tabloid photo of Adam Driver and Lady Gaga going, I am gagged because mother is serving. She is serving in these. And then finally, bah, humbug. Why would you make Al Pacino's entrance, Mr. Scott? Mr. Ridley Scott, I'm speaking directly to you because I know you're listening.
He's a big fan of our show.
He's like low ceiling, more like regular ceiling in my heart. Yeah. Why would you give the oldest guy the most English adjacent line?
It's one of the fucking major problems I have with this movie is like not the fact that I get it that it's like it shouldn't be a film that's in Italian. It's an Americanized film. I get that. Totally. And I don't mind films like that. It's totally a legitimate way of approaching things. If the country of Italy wants to spend their million libros or whatever the fuck on making their own version of the House of Gucci to release their one film a year, they can go ahead and do that. Like, I don't care. In fact, if it's good, I would watch it. That would be amazing. But the fact that they all speak English is like, okay, we get that.
Yeah.
But their accent play and shit is just so absurd. And they just sound like, Leto especially, he just sounds like an Italian who doesn't speak English very well.
Yes.
And that weirdly doesn't make sense because if you're like supposed to have believed that they're all speaking Italian kind of, he would speak clearly. But instead he sounds like fucking Hilaria Baldwin. And it's like, he's like, how you say clothing. Like it's so fucking annoying. And for the writers, and I'm sure it's like such a weird barrier to have to be like, how should they talk in this film considering what we're considering? And problems like what you just brought up, I think, are indicative of that, whereas it's kind of like, I don't fucking know. Like, what should I say?
There is like a movie where it's all set. What movie am I thinking of? It's all Italy. But they don't have accents. And they play. Is it not Ferrari. No,
because he has, but he's like,
and it's pretty good. Like his Italians.
That movie is like much more toned down, but that's also a Michael Mann film, so he's like,
a normal person.
Fucking relax, okay, over there. Yeah, just say your fucking line.
Just don't breathe into your dialogue.
He's a different kind of like insane compared to Ridley Scott, I guess. But yeah, like Adam Driver. But Driver, I think his accent is pretty good in this. He might be the one who's like doing the best.
He's the normal guy.
But he's also not like giving such a huge performance. Like you're so focused on Gaga and Leto that it's hard to remember that some people are giving kind of. And Jack Houston, I think, is like really good in this movie. He plays the lawyer who ends up taking over Gucci.
Oh, he's fucking great, man.
But a lot of that performance, I think, too, is the fact that he's like, I don't have to say much. Mm-hmm. So I can just be kind of like a presence. And then when I talk, just kind of like keep it as brief, locked down as possible. I love Jack Houston as a performer anyway, but he's got such a great face in this and he's just like so good. But yeah, I think Driver is like, I don't know. I think he's doing the best. He's the one that I believe the most.
Yeah.
But he definitely refines it in Ferrari more. And he's just giving a more subtle performance. And yeah.
It's wild to me that this is like a Leto Gaga film.
I mean, is it though? Like, it's not real. Like, the weird thing I was thinking a lot about is how it's like a Driver film, right? But Driver's not really the protagonist. And you and I, we talk about this a lot on this pod, is like, who is the real protagonist of the film? And like Patrizia, it's actually a film about a villain. It's like an anti-hero story.
Yeah.
And Patrizia is kind of like the real main character. Mm-hmm. Adam Driver is just like, he never changes. He just is like, no, this is obviously not good for my life to have you in it. And goodbye. I'm going to go sleep with my French lady on the lips couch. And like, yeah.
Yeah, man. I get it. It's such an obvious for Gaga's part to go from 0 to 100 because her greed gets in the way, right? Like she has everything she could possibly need. Even they have money. It's not like they're poor.
No.
But she's like, oh, but my pride. Like I am Mrs. Gucci. Like I gotta get my Gucci on.
Yeah, like it's a film ostensibly about greed. It just doesn't really say anything interesting about it, unfortunately. Like, because I don't think the story is very compelling because it seems like the themes are just kind of more like it's bad to murder someone, and she's kind of the film also doesn't, I think, make a lot of effort to be like, yeah, but here's part of her motivation that maybe you can believe, and it's kind of like, no, I don't. She's just, there's something up with her. There's something wrong.
But there's also something up with Adam Driver's character because he seems like kind of a self-aware, like rich guy, proud guy. And then when he marries her, he is so like adamant to his father. He's like, oh, if you're going to cut me out of, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Cut me out of your will, bro. Gucci who? I don't need that name. And this distinction is so fast and like sudden for me because when it opens, he's in the bar where Lady Gaga is like dressed up as, I don't know, some celebrity, Elizabeth Taylor.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think she asks him first. She's like, hey, can give me a drink.
She thinks he's the bartender.
Yeah. And he's like, do you know who I am? I'm Maurizio Gucci. And she's like, okay, Maurizio Gucci, get me a drink.
Yeah.
So that was cool to see that dynamic. And then him being like, oh, I'm
but
Gucci.
she also like you can tell that she's into that because he's a famous wealthy person at that scene. And then when he like gives it up, there's like a moment of respite where they're like, oh, just in love and banging at work and stuff. But then when Aldo kind of offers him an olive branch back into the family, she's the one who pushes him towards it.
Right.
You know, because that's really what she's after eventually. And maybe she's not after it in the beginning, but maybe she comes to be after it as, especially, I guess I got to understand as the love and coupledom of them is falling apart, that it's like, well, I don't want to be with Adam Driver anymore, but I do like being rich. Yeah. And I can understand wanting to hold on to that maybe. Yeah, like I kind of get that motivation, but
the humiliation that she faces at Gucci's dad's hands, like
and like from she would go to like having like back to having nothing. I kind of get it, but I just don't think it's like that.
Yeah.
You know. But then you're like, yeah, people, like I was saying when we were watching it, I was like, it's so wild to me that people are like, you could watch a movie like House of Gucci or any hundreds of movies at that time and be like, yeah, but when I hire this hitman, I'll get away with it. Because I was so careful. Because there was literally like 4 witnesses to me paying this man. And it's like, yeah, but I'll get away with it.
Me and my psycho clairvoyant.
This time I've been so careful to like, it's like I literally paid the guy in public at a bar with a bag full of money.
Wild.
Through 2 intermediaries.
Oh my God.
And they're like, yeah, but I mean, so no one will tell. Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
Just, I think Salma Hayek's character is so understated. She could be doing the worst. She like given her role as like this fortune teller, she could be hamming it up. But as the movie progresses, her character becomes even less crazier than Lady Gaga's.
I could do without her in this film. I like Salma Hayek.
Yeah.
But I just every kind of the thing with her, it's her her kind of like the way she believes in what Salma Hayek is saying is never fully explained to me. Is like, is Patricia like a real like woo woo kind of lady who's like, I'll read my tarot and tell me what to do and then really follows it? Because the way it comes up is like, she's just like watching TV one night and then she like calls her and she becomes her confidant. But it's never really, I don't think, fully fleshed out in a way that's interesting. And they could have excised a lot of that and just kind of set it up differently, I think. I don't know. I found it to be kind of like, not my favorite.
I think she needed a yes man, Lady Gaga's character.
Absolutely, yeah.
And she was like willing to like buy that.
She needs a character to which she can express her thoughts and feelings for the audience, right? Because like otherwise she doesn't have, it's like she's standing on the outside of the whole Gucci family with no one to really talk to. So I understand why that character exists, but I just don't find it that
because there's no women.
There's no other women. Yeah.
She doesn't even have like her own family or friends. There's no one other girl that she can rely on.
Yeah. It's like she never brings the other side of her, which is so ironic because like when they get married, there's this pointed scene that no one shows up for Maurizio.
Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right.
Because he's been cut out of the Gucci family.
That's right. Yeah.
And her whole side of the church is full.
Packed.
Yet she never brings those people along into her new life, it seems. And who knows if she ever did in real life. Like, I don't know anything about the case, but
yeah.
But yeah, she needs she needs a confidant. She needs a sounding board.
So she's willing to pay for a friend. And that's what she keeps doing.
Yeah.
Every time you meet Salma Hayek's character who's getting paid.
Yeah, like that's
things.
That's an interesting thematic thing that they don't really get at, is that like Salma Hayek is also riding Gaga's coattails.
Exactly.
And it's but there's like, for a movie that's 2 hours and 40 minutes, they don't spend any time on something like that, and you're just like, oh, okay. Like,
they do it very briefly when they're both sitting in a mud bath.
When they're at the spa, it's like,
that was really good.
Yeah.
But that's too late in the film. It's like it's at the 2 hour mark where we get to see Salma Hayek be like, yeah, we should definitely do a plot after our trip to the Cayman Islands. Like, she's got her trips planned. It's great. Fucking get it, girl.
Yeah, and I would like more of that stuff if there was more of it, I think, but there's not enough, and it feels kind of wasted. Because like there's all this other time spent on, like, to be honest, like the fashion shows and shit like that, where I'm also kind of like, I get that this is part of the visual treat for some people who are like fans of fashion as an art. But to me, I'm kind of like, every time there was a fashion show, I was always like, man, it would suck to like own a company like this, and then you're like, oh, I have to go attend the show too.
That's the whole point.
Have you ever been to a fashion show? I've never been to one.
No, I can't think of any. No.
Would you be interested in like watching something like that? Like,
I would be interested in watching like a wacky one, if not like regular clothes, but you know, some designers. I don't
think any fashion show is regular clothes though. They're all those like wacky, crazy shit. You know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, no one does a fashion show of like the new,
like dresses or what. I don't care about that
stuff.
But yeah. If it's like, oh, she's wearing a bucket on her head, like, I'll watch that shit. I would love to see a parade of like bucket heads.
That's just because of your fetish for bucket-headed ladies.
True. That's true.
Yeah.
Neck down. Oh, that's
basically
terrible.
you're like if your head can fit in this bucket, you're my type of woman. Yeah.
My God, I would be the worst, most regular guy.
Yeah.
I'd be the guy on 4chan being like, 2 out of 10, pointy elbows.
Christ. Yeah, like I just don't find that world that compelling, but I understand that people are into it and stuff, but to me that part of the movie kind of goes over my head, because I'm like, no, I don't think so.
I know, because it's not even done in a way that The Devil Wears Prada did it. Have you had a chance to see it?
I've never seen that. No.
There's a, and of course that is about like a made up fashion brand where like, everything is important, right? Everything is fashion, color, belt, shoes, everything is important.
Yeah.
Even the way they bring like egos into that discussion is so much.
See, that's probably an aspect of the film being about one thing.
Yeah.
This movie is about two things, and it's splitting its focus, and that's real fucking annoying. Like I thought like a Phantom Thread is like a movie about that kind of like, it actually, you know, Phantom Thread kind of splits its focus in an interesting way, but I found like the scenes of the fashion part of it like very compelling. Even though I don't care at all about what the House of Woodcock is doing, like, it doesn't matter to me. Whereas like this movie, it just kind of like feels like it appends those scenes in a way that it's just like, hey, here's something flashy to watch for a minute, just to and you're kind of like, oh, okay. Like the whole introduction of Tom Ford and how he like changed Gucci, and then there's like the review being like, oh, Tom Ford's a genius and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'm kind of like, oh, that was like a whole 20-minute swath of this film that could have been like, you know, 3. Like,
I know, because it's like enough for the audience to already know by the time that Gucci is boring.
Yeah.
For buyers.
Yeah, which like they accomplish in like one scene.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. That just stuff. Whatever. It's the film is too long. The film is too I know. Fucking long.
And in hindsight, is there maybe not enough Jared Leto?
Whoa. You've
now
come
that
around.
I'm thinking, I'm like, he's there in like 3 or 4 pivotal scenes. Some with his dad, some with Adam Driver.
In the middle, he's a lot more. He's very prominent. He's prominent there because they have to maneuver him out of the way to get his like to shut down his new brand and to kind of take a controlling interest in Gucci away from most of the rest of the family, right?
That's right.
So they manipulate Jared Leto, which is where it kind of climaxes with the scene where he's actually quite good when they they confront each other. After that, he becomes kind of a tool in that he just needs to be there to convince Aldo to sell his shares. Once Aldo gets out of prison, which is all he does basically. And then Maurizio is fully in charge of the brand.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And which he sells to like an Iraqi billionaire or something. Yeah.
That's right. Some oil baron.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
He's really good in this.
That guy's
actor.
awesome.
He was awesome. Yeah. And then, Jack Houston ends up taking over the whole thing. And
what fucking crazy.
And Maurizio's like, 150 million? God, what can I even do with that? And yeah, dude.
It's nice that there's like two distinct moments that Adam Driver's character goes, "Oh, my ex-wife was right this whole time. She crazy, but she right about this.
She was right, yeah.
It's so sad it didn't end up being a family business.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's like, there could be something interesting to say about how, like at the end, there's that note where it's like the Gucci brand is worth this and blah, blah, blah. No members of the Gucci family are involved in the Gucci brand anymore. Yeah. Which is like, that could be an interesting thing to say, but then you're making like the social network of House of Gucci, right? Which could be an interesting film.
Right.
Right. But you also have to contend with the film that's about Patrizia murders Maurizio, which is, it's a very fractured film. That's in that way, and kind of find it frustrating. I've only said it 5 times so far, so everyone should get it.
What if Aaron Sorkin wrote House of Gucci?
Yeah, if they like spoke their Italian accents like way faster,
but like real fast, like Jesse Eisenberg.
What the fuck, like pigeon?
Hey, you don't have to study. What do you keep saying? I don't have to study. You got to study. It's like, oh, what's happening?
Because you go to a BU.
I'll be you. Oh, no.
No, thanks. I've seen what Sorkin's done since The Social Network, and I'll say no thank you. He was busy making fucking House of the Ricardos or whatever that movie was.
House of Ricardos.
Yeah. Being the Ricardos? Yeah, fuck that.
Oh, man.
Fuck that film.
Yeah, dude.
And fuck the Chicago 7. That shit is fucking...
Needs more Lady Gaga. If they had Jared Leto in that thing.
Yeah. You want to go over the plot? We've talked a lot about it, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. You can go over it briefly.
Yeah.
Patrizia, it like kind of starts with her, and this is back to my argument about her being the protagonist, is like she goes out to this party, she meets Maurizio Gucci, immediately kind of like falls in love with him. Her father owns like a trucking company, quote unquote, which is, as it is in New Jersey, slang for kind of being involved with the mafia.
Yeah.
But he owns this like trucking company. They get involved. Maurizio goes to Rodolfo, his father, played by Jeremy Irons, looking like an aging emo frontman. And Rodolfo is like, no, she's trash. You know, she can't be part of this family.
Yeah.
I'll cut you out of the will, which he does. So Patrizia brings Maurizio to work with her for a bit. Eventually they go to, is it Aldo, his birthday? Pacino's birthday?
Yeah.
And Aldo, who is Maurizio's uncle, is much more friendly to him as a coming back into the business, and he's like, hey, why don't you come back into this, because me and your father own Gucci 50-50.
Well, Aldo's character obviously wants to make it more commercial, like go to the mall, like make it less niche than it as it currently stands.
Yes.
And Gucci's dad is like, oh, no, it's like a high brand. We can't be fucking seen everywhere.
Yeah, he wants to.
So they're not expanding.
Rodolfo wants to be like haute couture, and if I'm even using that, the French can tell me if I am, but like if I'm using that correctly,
it's haute couture.
Haute couture. And yeah, but Aldo wants to be like a huge like multinational business. He's responsible for the replicas early on. He's like, yeah, it's okay. It actually heightens the Gucci brand, and they're like, no, and blah blah blah, whatever.
And he was right.
Aldo kind of like brings Maurizio back in with the encouragement of Patrizia, and Rodolfo dies. Maurizio inherits his shares, which is 50% of the brand, even though Rodolfo never signed the
share
deal, which they never... Do they end up forging that signature? Was that I
think that was the big plot twist. That
because you forget about it for a while. They don't go into it, but it seemed like the idea was that they would forge his signature on that. And because Jack Houston brings it up later as a threat to Maurizio, being like, well, this is how you could lose the whole thing, is because like of this forged signature. because or else he would have to pay like inheritance tax or whatever.
Man, Shakespeare did write this damn thing.
He did. He did. It's
Whew.
yeah, and like the middle of it is basically like they kind of muscle like Paolo, who's seen as this failure, who's a triumph of mediocrity, I believe, as Jeremy Irons calls him. He starts his own brand using the Gucci name, and then Maurizio like sues him out of his existence for that. And then Paolo ends up having to, but it's like they plan it all along. Then Paolo ends up having to sell his part of Gucci, his stake of Gucci, back to Maurizio, which is Maurizio is trying to like consolidate all of the control. And then they also set up Aldo to be nabbed by the Italian police for fraud because he's been cooking the books for some reason.
That's right.
And they get him out of the way to go to prison. So Maurizio is basically like fully in control of the company. As Gucci kind of declines, so does Patrizia and Maurizio's marriage. And he escapes to Switzerland for a bit and starts banging the French lady from Stillwater, who's a great actress.
Yeah.
And she's very underutilized in this film. And then they get divorced. He sells Gucci, or a large stake of Gucci, to this Middle Eastern businessman.
Right.
They hire Tom Ford. Ford sort of revitalizes the brand's image, despite the fact that they're still losing like $300 million a year.
My God.
And they offer to buy Maurizio out. And Domenica, Jack Huston's character, Domenica Del Sole, will become the CEO of Gucci. And no more Gucci's involved, basically. And in the meantime of that, Aldo gets out of prison, and they have to force him to sell his shares as well. Essentially,
they're doing all this fraud and deception and like all these terrible things, like turning on families, sending them to jail.
Yeah,
everything that Rodolfo Gucci was like, the mafia is trash.
Yeah.
The mafia is the bad guys who do all these terrible things.
That's kind of like one of the ironies. It's interesting.
It's one of the Jeremy ironies.
Hey, there's the wordplay. I don't say this very often, and it was a point brought up by, I read a couple reviews, one by Dana Stevens and one by Alison Wilmore, Slate and Vulture, and one of them, and I forget who, brought up a good point that they were like, this story might have actually been better as a miniseries because there's a lot of stuff that kind of has to get glossed over. And
Definitely.
I was like, for once, I kind of agree.
Definitely.
I rarely say that about films, but this actually probably would have been a solid like 6 episodes.
Hell yeah.
It could cover all of these different things. And yeah, I don't know. Regardless, Maurizio gets bought out and he's just a rich guy. And then Patrizia decides to have him murdered.
Oh my God.
And a hitman.
Well, she's true to her roots, baby.
Yeah. So what I read was in the real life case, they had been divorced and Maurizio had agreed to pay her like 1.4 million euros a year.
Oh
or
my God.
maybe it was in American dollars. I don't know. 1.4 million a year in alimony because they did have kids.
Shit.
He was going to, before the murder, he had planned to cut that in half, basically.
How can he cut it in half?
I think like he was going to challenge it in court or something like that. I don't know how that shit works. But yeah, and she was like, "Oh, how can I get by on $800,000 a year?" Like,
I mean, facts.
Yeah, yeah, you know.
Hell yeah.
Once you're attuned to a certain level of
totally
something or other, yeah. And so he's murdered by these 2 hitmen. And then, surprise, surprise, they all go to jail because it's the worst crime alive. Like it's the
stupidest.
It's the shittiest fucking crime. It's the House of Gucci of crimes. It's so dumb.
There's sloppy. There's like, oh man.
Yeah.
I love the way Salma Hayek looks in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Just like fucking. Well, shit. Made my bed, better lay in it.
They get the book thrown at them, dude.
Yeah,
like
25 years.
She got Patrizia got like 29 years, and then the guy who pulled the trigger got like more
life sentence.
He got a life sentence.
Yeah.
Salma Hayek got, and then the other
26.
2 got like 25 or 26. Yeah, something crazy. Which is like, I get that aiding and abetting a murder is like not great, but like that's such a long time. Yeah,
because no one came forward, and so they're all equal accomplices.
You know
no one came and cleared like.
Yeah.
Announced it.
Yeah, you know what's so wild? So when I was in Finland, I took a class about prison systems in Europe, and the prof was telling us, like, you know, when you go there, all the crazy stories about how, like, Finnish prisons, they're like, yeah, like, there's like a guy who killed 7 people and he got 3 years, and it was like a really tough sentence. Like, because that's how Scandinavian prisons, they're
it's meant to rehabilitate.
Yeah, they're so much more focused on the rehabilitation and
Yeah.
stuff. He was talking about, there was this
Holy
case,
shit.
there was this case where this Finnish guy murdered at least one person, but probably more than one. It was like this case where he brought on these 2 Japanese girls as his accomplices. They were tourists, and then they ended up joining this dude.
Oh my God.
And the court was like, oh, this guy's going to go to jail, but you 2, you're fine. You can go. Because they didn't end up killing anyone, but they were like completely his accomplices. And they were like, no, you're cool. Maybe go back to Japan for a while. But yeah, it's like,
what?
Yeah, it's like in a different system, this Pino probably would have maybe gone like free, but
wow,
it's wild.
Wow.
But they got a fucking fuck ton of
Damn.
But murder is a crime, and I've always said that, and that's like
You've always maintained it.
I know it's like everything's up in the air these days, but I have always steadfastly maintained that murder is a crime.
Yeah.
And if you do it, you should go to jail. And I think if you aid and abet it, you should also probably serve some time as well. But
That's
25
right.
years, I just think is really, really intense.
You know what's a worse crime than murder?
Jared Leto.
Fashion, baby. Jared Leto doing fashion.
Yeah.
Browns and pastels, straight to jail.
Yeah. He
Go to jail.
He could have solved a lot of problems. Yeah.
Although now that I think about it, browns and pastels, it does sound pretty good.
You know what's annoying about that scene?
Yeah.
They never show you what's actually
I
on
know, fucker. Like, take the opportunity for the audience to
Because-
be the real judge.
I wonder if it would be strange to like get an art I guess like an art director or like a decorator, whoever makes that shit, the props people who like create that stuff.
Because they show Tom Ford's design, so they could have done it.
Yeah. But I wonder if like it would be interesting as a challenge to be like, make something tacky and ugly with a lot of browns and pastels. and like
Every time they did it was too perfect.
Yeah, it was like too good, and then Ridley
too
Scott was
good.
like, fuck it, don't show any of it. Fuck
Because,
you.
Look, it objectively sounds good. Like a pastel pink with brown pants. Hello.
Because we don't have taste.
Okay. You've seen me literally in that outfit, so I am offended.
Yeah. I was like, what's wrong with brown? I don't know.
Yeah.
But this was just because I'm an ally.
Fuck yeah, House of Gucci.
Yeah, this movie is fun.
I
It's
would
not
watch
good,
it with
but-
like a bigger group and have way more fun. Like a room full of friends. If this were to be on TV, I wouldn't turn it off. If I was home alone, I would leave the home.
If I was home alone, I would move to another city.
I would leave. Preferably Italy.
Before we go, though, we have to talk about the movie we saw yesterday.
My God.
The House of Gucci of Academy Award nominated films.
Nickel Boys.
Nickel Boys.
That's right.
Also a movie that was too long.
I think so.
Yeah.
I appreciate.
Respectfully.
I've never seen a movie like from like a POV perspective.
You never
for
seen
the
Hardcore
entirety.
Henry?
No, my God, what is that?
Hardcore Henry?
No.
Oh, it's a Russian film.
Oh.
Starring the guy from District 9.
Oh.
Okay, just so you know, it's the opposite of Nickel Boys. It's like literally like watching like a first person shooter.
Oh God.
Yeah. And it's like crazy.
Pretty jarring.
It's pretty good though.
Is it like a video game the entire time?
Well, it's live action. So like it looks like real life. But like Henry, I don't think he talks very much or says almost anything. It's mostly like you're just experiencing. But it's like, and it's not that. It's a lot of like, it's like if you were watching John Wick from a first person POV.
Oh, from the gun's perspective.
No, from like a person's perspective.
Okay. Yeah.
Guns don't have eyes. Yeah.
I just mean you're looking down and all you see is a hand and a gun.
No, but it is a fun movie. But yeah, but this movie, Nickel Boys, done entirely from first person POV.
Yeah, wow.
Different POVs, but I liked it. I didn't like it as much as I admired a lot about it, but I didn't love it that much. Like,
I'm actually surprised that the Academy this year was like, I don't know, guys, 13 noms for Emilia Perez. I don't know if we have room for Nickel Boys in this thing.
Yeah.
And then someone was like, maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's a really well done movie and
it's beautifully
well adapted and amazingly filmed. But like a lot of it, there was parts where I felt parts where I wanted the plot to start going and
Yeah.
it wasn't, and ultimately like the plot is pretty simple, but then there would be these scenes where you're just like, oh, that's like amazing. Like this scene is like so cool and so compelling, and
because it turns into a docu sometimes, and it feels like you're in a museum. It feels like I'm looking out at a painting or something that has done and true and real, and I'm experiencing it in real time. Without giving anything away, there's one moment where it's like super hyper zoomed in black and white photo of boys from that Nickel Academy.
Yeah. Which obviously must be a real photograph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because they didn't want to show anything, it was just the eyeball.
Yeah.
Really blurred out, really pixelated, nose, mouth.
He has a documentarian. Ramel Ross has made a documentary
also
before.
docu awarded nominated for Academy Award.
Yeah.
Damn.
He's the real deal. I thought the movie was good. It just didn't blow it. I didn't love it, but I thinking about it a lot. And it was good. It was well worth watching.
Yeah.
I hope it wins an award. That'd be cool if it won adapted screenplay or something.
Hell yeah.
I'd be down. You got my vote, Ramel.
Get it, Mr. Ross.
I know you're a big listener. You and Ridley get together and listen to this podcast every week. So, that's it. You want to talk any more about House of Gucci? I am done. I hope to never talk about it again.
I think it's physically impossible to talk any more about House of Gucci. This is the only pod to have ever done it. And this in 2025.
We're the only pod to bring justice to this film.
And we will lay it to rest.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thanks for listening.
Father, Son,
House of Gucci.
Bye.
Bye.